your network is your net worth, right? That's kind of the cliche quote there, but it really is true. Like, you got to start surrounding yourself with people that are doing it. So, if all your buddies are out like boozing every single night and they're not making anything of themselves, like, you gotta, if you want to make anything of yourself, you're going to have to change that first and foremost, the people that you surround yourself. So stop going and hanging out with the crowds that are just partying and wasting all their money, and start putting yourself around people like you guys. Start educating, start going to mastermind groups, start going to meetup groups on the weekends or in the evenings, and start really trying to shift your focus to start putting yourself around those people that are going to help you and make you better.
Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Dan Wynn
and Mike Glaspie,
and welcome to the Military Cashflow.
So today we have Stuart Grazier, and he's going to share with us his story of how he created financial freedom through out-of-state real estate investing while active duty in the military. Stuart, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about you.
Hey, guys. Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor and privilege to be here. Humbled to come on. You guys are doing great stuff. But yeah, so I'm still active duty. I'm Navy, so I had to wear my Navy hat today to represent. I feel like I'm outnumbered here. But so I've been in 18 years and reaching, getting close to retirement here at 20. And have been investing in real estate in really all different niches of real estate for the last, I'd say, 12 years seriously. Wholesaling and flipping and mortgage notes, and I own commercial assets. And so, just done a little bit of everything, but really the goal is just to, find passive income and create multiple streams of income while still active duty, so I can, build that financial freedom number and not have to worry so much about my transition out of the military in a couple of years. So that's kind of been the goal, overall. And recently, I partnered with my college roommate. His name is David Gutierrez, and we started a turnkey company about 2 years ago. And really, the goal of it was just to help more military guys and veterans. And we've sold to some civilians too, but I'd say that 98% of the people that we've sold houses to are just within our network, and that's military and veterans. And we've just created this company. We built it. I'm still active duty. He's still active duty. I live in Denver, Colorado. He lives in Maryland, in Annapolis, because, is stationed at Fort Meade. And our company's in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And so, we've built out a team there, all out of state, all while, managing that remotely while doing, our full-time jobs in the Navy. And, have found some decent success there. And so it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's crazy that's a lot of stuff there, a lot of stuff to cover, and we're going to dig into a lot of it. But I kind of want to pull you back a little bit. You said you've been doing this for about 12 years now. You're 18 years into your military obligation, your military time. What clicked 12 years ago for you to say, all right, let me look this far ahead to say, I want to create this financial freedom for the time that I retire? What clicked for you? What was that?
Yeah. So I'll take it back like a step further. And, I said that the first investment I did was right out of college. I was in flight school in Pensacola, Florida, and, just young and dumb and didn't really know anything. A friend of mine who was in flight school with me, who went to college with me, he had kind of a background in real estate. His family was in real estate for a long time. And he had started buying up just raw land in Mobile, Alabama, which is just on the other side of the border from Pensacola. And, he was just kind of telling me about it one day, like at the bar or something like that. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. I'm going to go check that out. And just completely random reached out to a realtor over there and went over there one weekend. He started showing me some cheap lots kind of in new development areas. And so I was like, all right, I'll do it. And threw down $5,000 on a $45,000 lot, and kind of just a new, half-acre lot development. And I'd say 3 months later, a huge hurricane came through and just like wiped out like the entire area. I was like, oh man, there goes my investment. But I held on to it just because that's all I could do. And then I'd say about 6 months later, they started redeveloping, they started getting things back and going again. And like the economy just started booming. And that same realtor reached out to me. He's like, hey, your lot is the last one in this little section. And someone wants to buy it for $90,000. And I was like, this is awesome. So basically my investment doubled in less than a year and, made a pretty significant profit for me as a young, 22-year-old out of college. So that was my first experience with real estate investing. And it just kind of like got me hooked from day one. But then flight school got in the way, Navy got in the way. I moved to San Diego where it was like super expensive, and I ended up buying a house there and way more than what I should have as a young, Lieutenant JG, like 02 in the Navy. And then like deployments and everything else. So like kind of that span of time, I didn't really do a whole lot. And then I went on a long deployment in Iraq with actually the 10th Mountain Division. I was augmented into an Army unit. The division was 10th Mountain, and then I was kind of put into a civil affairs battalion, and I was working with them in Iraq, and an Army chaplain got put together this course from Dave Ramsey, the Financial Peace University course, and so we were doing that, and so it just kind of got me really thinking about just finance in general. And I was in debt. I'd bought a new car. I was in credit card debt. And so I started kind of really digging into just financial management in general. And that really got me interested. And that kind of led down that path, got me more interested in real estate because of my one experience I had earlier on. And so I got back from that deployment, and then I had been just learning and reading and studying, and then I just started taking action as soon as I got back from that deployment, and just kind of been going ever since. So.
Great. So you wet your whistle with some land development, doubled in a year, moved out to an expensive market, and it seems like you still did something over there. I know you said you bought overpriced, but either way, you're still taking action. Then you went over to and deployed with a good old climb to glory 10th Mountain, and started learning about the Dave Ramsey, like I guess building the foundation, that foundational background, right, with the Dave Ramsey ideals, and then pretty much you've been just going from there, taking action. I mean, that's great. I love that story, especially the that taking action on the front end. It seems like you found somebody you trusted, and you just, hey, I'm going to throw a little bit of money at this and see how it works. And what did that do for you? Like, how did that change your mind? That very first deal, what did that do for you as an investor?
Yeah, I mean, so I think, and this is just in general for everyone who's wanting to get started, at some point you kind of just have to take action, and, you can self-educate and learn and analyze deals and run numbers, but until you actually like pull the trigger and take action, nothing's going to happen for you. And so for me, that I've made a lot of mistakes in my time investing, and but I've learned from those mistakes along the way, and it's made me better for it. And so I think for anyone, I think that the most important thing in that is you got to just take action, and it's going to be scary. Like a $5,000 investment for me, buying a $50,000 piece of land when I was 22 years old, and I wasn't making a whole lot of money. Like that was scary to me, but I just was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take action. And it worked out in my favor. There has been other times where I've taken that same action and it hasn't worked out in my favor, and I've lost a lot of money, but it wasn't like the end all break all and like just crushed me. It was a mitigated risk for sure that I took, but I think the most important thing is just taking that step and just doing it. You got to do it.
You hit that right on the head. That's a common theme amongst most investors, amongst most entrepreneurs, is understanding that the action is more important. That first deal is more important because then you start to build up confidence. You actually learn some of the nuances that these education programs or these gurus or these YouTube channels don't cover when you're actually doing it. And you kind of really touched on a point there is, yes, you might take a loss, right? You might take we don't call L's losses. We call them lessons learned here in Military Cashflow. But nonetheless, you might get a good lesson learned, but you mitigate your risk. And every time that you're investing, every time you're taking a new venture, there is a risk to it. But because of through the education and through those risk mitigation techniques, if you will, we do it in the Army all the time, right? We learn how to hedge, that risk, that hedge, that lesson learned. We can make it a small lesson learned instead of a large one. But over time, it'll just continue to grow. And that 5,000 in the beginning, it may have hurt, but now, and I don't know your financial situation, but listening to your story, I'm pretty sure 5,000 is not too much of a concern anymore because you can now go make another 5,000, right? So that's really good point.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yep, for sure.
All right, so transitioning to this out-of-state real estate investing while active duty. So talk to us about that. I love that you found a great partner with your college roommate, right? And you guys started doing these what some would call turnkey, right? So can we talk about that a little bit? Like how did that start, and what brought you to that?
Yeah, so being in the Navy, and like I said, I was stationed in San Diego for like 10 years. For the Navy guys, most of our locations for being stationed are on the coasts. Mm-hmm. And more often than not, those are more expensive than some of the Midwest or inland markets. And
those cheap behind Army bases, right?
Yeah, right. Those cheap Army bases where nobody else wants to live. Got to give you guys crap sometime.
No, it's all good, man. My dad's Navy, so I actually grew up in Jacksonville on Mayport. I lived in Mayport for 6-7 years or something like that. So
okay, nice. Yeah, so San Diego, super expensive, and the numbers, for the most part, if you're buying just for cash flow, like it doesn't make sense there unless you do like a lot of like creative stuff, and like house hacking, which I did. I bought a super expensive house in San Diego. But I had tons of roommates. I had a guy like living in our garage. It was like a basement / garage, and like he had like a mattress on the floor, and he was renting out like garage space. Like, so there's ways to get some cash flow, but for the most part, it doesn't make sound investments buying in super expensive markets like that. So you got to look elsewhere, and I started first looking in Dallas, Texas, Fort Worth, Texas, which is where I was born and where I grew up. And so I had a lot of connections there and family. And I started there. And as I kind of built on those investments, I started looking elsewhere. And after I got back from that deployment and started looking at different locations, I was buying in Dallas, Fort Worth, but I wasn't stationed there. I was in San Diego. And I was just leveraging, my network and leveraging the people that I knew that could help me out, and started building on that. So I invested there first. And then like I said, I got connected with my college roommate. We'd always been close. We always talk. And he had been buying some stuff, more of just like buying a house to live in and then turning it into a rental property when he left. And then he ended up going and buying some turnkey rentals from a company. And around the same time period, I went and bought some turnkey rental companies out of Birmingham, Alabama. And, neither of us had really good experiences with that. Mine was just an okay experience. I still I own 4 houses in Birmingham, Alabama, all through the turnkey company that I used. And David had bought in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and he used a company that was based out of Chicago, but they sold in Milwaukee, and he just had a really, really bad experience with it. I mean, just the company that he used, he obviously didn't do a ton of due diligence on them. They were just super dishonest. They their model was you would pay for everything up front. Like you would buy the house pre-rehab and you would buy it, pay for the rehab. So you put all this, it'd almost be like the Burr strategy, but it wouldn't be a Burr. Yeah. It'd be, yeah. So like you put all this money up front, and then you basically had to trust them to go do the rehab that they said they were going to do. And in this case, they didn't. So like, he put money in for putting a new furnace in, but then they didn't put a new furnace in, and he caught them in this lie. And so it was like, he basically had to like fire everybody, and kind of create his own team at a just necessity. And it was, super bad experience for him. And so through that, through his experience, through my experience was way less than that, but, just not very good communication from the property management company. And I had to check them on a few things, and it's been that way ever since. So we started talking like, hey, we've both been in real estate for a long time. We both have had a lot of different experiences. We started thinking about like our transition plan to get out of the military. We love real estate, and we think it's a fantastic asset. And I think it's a great way for military people to build their net worth, to build their passive income. And so we're like, hey, let's just do this. Like, you've kind of already started building a team in Milwaukee. We looked at a bunch of other markets, but Milwaukee just made sense because he had already kind of created that team, and the numbers really worked there for what we wanted to do. And so we started just building out that team more. We kind of focused in on the realtor because, she had been in the business for a long time. She knew the market really well. She was on the investment side of being a realtor. She kind of helped us build up that team. We started getting contractors. We started kind of, looking at property managers. And then we tested the model first. David had already bought, and then I bought, so we tested it out. I bought, kind of a fixer upper, tested out the contractors, put it under my personal portfolio, tested the property manager, and did that for a while, and then started kind of doing it ourselves. And then from there, we started kind of just telling others. And now we, been doing it for 2 years. We continue to learn and grow and build our team. And, we're now doing, anywhere from two a month to 5 a month. And, we've done about 40 properties in the last year and a half. I'd say 98% of our buyers are all military guys. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been pretty cool.
I got to touch on that part. You said about 98% of your buyers are military. And so it's funny because I was active duty through most of my investing as well. And I actually purchased a turnkey property out of Illinois. And it was the same, similar to your situation. Nothing bad really happened, but the communication just wasn't really there. I still own that property because I don't have enough equity to really sell it, right? Because I bought it in that turnkey fashion.
Yeah.
But you kind of found a very specific niche. Active duty military members out there, a lot of them may have these, these savings, these retirement accounts, these whatever it may be, but they don't necessarily have a team on the ground that they trust. They don't necessarily have a vehicle or a market, right, that they can truly watch or the time to build a team out there. And you've already handled all of that. And when you did it, was your intention with the military service member in mind, or was it just simply for you originally?
Yeah, 100%. It was, we had 100% in mind to really just serve our own community. Nice. And, the turnkey model gets kind of a bad rap because of what you said about, for the most part, you're buying kind of at full market value. And so you're not getting a ton of equity at first. But I feel that as a first time investor, like taking that step and getting your feet wet and using a team that's already in place and finding that market and finding a team that you trust, and getting that experience of just buying your first deal. Why not use a team like that has that experience and that is going to help you and kind of, guide you along the process. We have multiple investors that have bought multiple deals from us, but there's been quite a few investors who have kind of used it as a pivot, like they buy like 1 or 2 deals from us. They kind of get their feet wet. They get comfortable with the buying process of being an investor. And then they go do like huge deals. They go buy like fourplexes out of state, and they go buy multifamily deals, and they start being private lenders for us, and they start doing all this other stuff. So like we've really found that it's a pivot tool to get your feet wet, to get it, to get some experience level, and then go crush it, in your own endeavor afterwards.
Yeah, you talked about mitigating your risk. Like that was one of the first things we talked about when it came to like out of state investing, right? Yep. So this is it. Just you've outlined it perfectly. You're mitigating your risk. You're getting essentially a finished product with a solid team, a proven team that you said you've already done 40 deals with, so it's already a proven team, and then you're able to get that experience. So it's a little bit of experience, so you can go off and then do your own deals. I think that's a phenomenal strategy, and I think it works very, very well for a lot of people for that specific reason. I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, because if you're a Navy guy and you're in these expensive markets, and you still want to be an investor, you have to you have to start looking out of state, really, if it's going to make sense for you from numbers wise, and to find a solid investment that's going to get you your return on your money. And so you can do one of two things. You can go and build your own team, and that takes a lot of time, and it's hard. Honestly, it is. It's hard. Like we're trying to build another team in another market out of state, and it's hard. And so you either have to rely on your network, or just randomly start kind of creating that network and building out that team. So that's one option. A lot of times it's going to be hit and miss, and you're going to probably make some mistakes along the way and learn from it. But the other option is go with a team that's already set in place, that has the experience and that can be able to help you along the way. And so, either way is fine. I just think that option two with that risk mitigation is definitely the better way to go.
I agree with you 110%. As I mentioned, I'm right there. I've done it before, and I'm now looking also to diversify into other markets, because a large portion of my portfolio is in one location. So again, risk mitigation, you want to kind of diverse as your portfolio grows. You want to identify more markets to invest in. So using something like your model, potentially I could purchase 2-3 properties in that area just to get a foothold. And then, maybe I can branch out from that area even further, right? But as you mentioned, it's a pivot point. There's a lot of people who are looking for an entry point, a low barrier to entry into these markets, and a system like yours is perfect. But with that being said, you highlighted a few different things that you didn't like about the company, and then the companies that you use. So you try to kind of, make your own version of it. Explain to some of the listeners, if they want to get into out-of-state real estate investing while active duty, what are some of the systems you have in place, or they should ask for as far as communication with the teams, with communications with the property managers and the investors out there?
Yeah. So communication is huge. And, as most of us in the military, we're all, type A personalities. We want to have like answers now. And we have our checklists and so that's important. And property management, that's the first form of that communication to ensure that's in place. And I'm not going to lie, like we've had some challenges with that, and I would say there is no perfect property management company. I don't know. You guys might have found the perfect one, but
absolutely not.
Yeah, there's
always a work in progress.
No disrespect to my property manager. I know they're listening. I love y'all, but no.
Yeah. But I mean, no one's going to manage your property the same way that you would, right? So it's always going to be a challenge, and we're always trying to build on that, and we're trying to really hound in on our property managers. Like, hey, these guys are all military. They want answers. They want them now. Please be communicating. And that's super important to us. And a lot of times we kind of get involved too. Like, we're kind of like the secondary property manager. If the other property manager isn't going to be, doesn't reply within their expectation, timeline. So, and that's good. I mean, it's good and bad. It's tough on us because we're always communicating, but that's fine because that's what we expect as well. So, we're kind of like the secondary property manager, if you will. And we're that other form of communication. I mean, every one of our customers, our clients, our investors, like, I mean, they have my personal cell phone. You know, they have our emails too, not just the property management company. So it's just another layer of communication that we've built into our process and our system. And I think for the most part, they've really enjoyed that. And so that, you know, that's one, you know, communication is absolutely key to this. You know, if they have questions, you know, like I said earlier, the model that David had bought into, where he's buying up front pre-rehab, we think that's a terrible way to do it. You know, our company buys the house first. You know, we take all the risk during the rehab, because as you guys, I'm sure know, like, things come up on a rehab that you weren't planning on. And we take that risk as the company first. And, you know, we set that sales price immediately. We don't change this sales price if, you know, a big rehab like, oh no, comes in place. Like, that's going to hurt our bottom line, not the investor's bottom line. So, you know, we make sure that is solid, set in place. And we run that cash flow number. We run that like return on investment from the very get-go. We set that sales price based on that cash on cash return and the, you know, the cash flow. And we don't change it. And if something comes up along the way on the rehab, we take that hit as the company, not the end investor. So that's to me and David was super important as a part of our model. And then, you know, we identify the investor right away when we buy the house, and we kind of get them along the process. Like, so they start getting involved in the rehab, not from like a decision-making standpoint, but we do weekly walkthrough videos on all of our rehabs, and our investor client gets included on all those walkthrough videos as well. So like, they're seeing like the transformation of the house. They're like learning and getting educated along the way of like what we're doing. We send them the full scope of work, so they see exactly what we're doing on the house, so they know what they're getting as an end product. And then that way later on, like, if they see that we put in a new water heater and 6 months in, their water heater, you know, craps the bed, like, they come back to us and be like, hey, Stu, you guys put in a water heater and it just, you know, went out, you know? And so we kind of put that as like a guarantee warranty into our business plan too, is you have the scope of work. You see what we did. If something breaks and that was on us, we're going to cover it. And so, you know, that was super important to us as well. So, you know, there's just some stuff like that, you know, we had found that we didn't like about the turnkey companies that we used. So we just kind of put those in place to really help that end investor and really serve them, to make sure that they're getting a quality product and a quality experience.
And I love the way that's the way you went about it, right? You identified a problem that you were specifically having, right? And if you were specifically having it, you and your partner were having it, then likely a lot of other people have it, right? And then you solved that problem. You created your own company and you solved that problem. And that's what a lot of, I think there's a quote out there that says you're paid directly in proportion to the number of problems that you solve, right? So it's perfect. You're basically living that quote, right? And I think that's great. So if I'm let's say, you know, I live in Jacksonville, right? I'm stationed at Mayport. I'm a Navy guy right now. I'm putting my Navy hat on.
There you go.
So I'm a Navy guy right now, and I'm stationed in Jacksonville, Florida, at Mayport. And I reach out to you somehow. I find out, you know, about the turnkey investment. I have some capital ready, and I'm looking to invest. How would this work? How would this approach? How would you explain it to, like, for our listeners out there that may be thinking the same thing, like, man, I need to get in contact with Stu so we can, you know, get my get my foot in the door. So how would this...
man. Yeah. So, you know, I'll give you all my contact information on how to get a hold of me at the end. But, you know, we would first have a conversation. We'd get on the phone and just talk about, you know, what you're looking for and what we provide, and if that matches. You know, we kind of tell our investors about who we are and our process and our systems. And at the end of that conversation, if they're still interested, then what we do is we put them on our buyer's wait list. And we do have a buyer's wait list right now. Currently we have about 15 buyers waiting for deals, and they're all just through referrals. You know, we do zero marketing. They're all just kind of referrals from other investors. So it's a good problem to have, but also a bad problem because we want to get them, into a deal sooner than later. So right now, as it sits, they're on about a 3-month wait to get into a property. And so, as soon as they come up on the list, we send them the next property that we have in line. They're all very similar. They're all, single family house. We've tried to get some duplexes. They're super popular and hard to come by. So most of our investments are single family houses, all, typically 3-bed, 1.5 bath, or 2-bed, 1 bath, and all kind of in like 3 primary zip codes in Milwaukee. And so like from an investment viewpoint, they're all for the most part the same. And so the numbers are all similar on each deal. So we send it to them. They take a look at it. They can do their own due diligence, and then they would come back and say, yes, I want it. Let's get this under contract. So we'd put it under contract for 2 months down the road, because we get that kind of lined up right when we start rehabbing the house. We buy it. Yeah, go ahead.
So you do all the financing, right? So it's up to me, I want to buy it. I just need the 25% down for the capital. And then after that's done, then you pretty much take that, or I'm assuming you guys maybe form some kind of LLC or something, or you guys just take over the financing from there. And that 25% is essentially how you would, it's kind of like a contractor would get paid. Is that how?
No. They don't put any money into it until the very end of the deal.
Nice.
When they want to go buy it. So there is zero money into it until they end up buying it at the very end.
Okay.
Actually, the only thing that they would do is put earnest money into it, to kind of like secure the deal, to reserve the deal. That's, I think, like $1,000 or something like that. But no, we take all the risk at first. Like I said, like we buy it, we use our own money. We do have private lenders that lend to us. So we can basically buy these houses for cash, because they're all like fixer uppers. They're all auction properties, need a ton of work, and you're not going to get financing on it. So we pay cash for them. We use cash to rehab it. That's all on us. We own the house during this rehab period. The end investor just is kind of along for the ride. They're learning, they're getting educated. They're watching like these walkthrough videos. We're just feeding them information. We're telling them what we're doing. We send them the scope of work. That entire, 45 to 60 day process, they're just kind of along for the ride and learning. While that is going on, we tell them, hey, you need to start reaching out to lenders. And we have a couple that we recommend, but if you have a lender that's going to lend to you in Wisconsin, get after it and start, because that's a process too, like getting your loan set up, getting your pre-approval. That's a 30 to 45 day process in itself. Because we recommend get, conventional financing, lowest interest rate you possibly can, lowest amount down you can. And typically it's a 20% down payment. So they're working that angle while we're working the rehab. And then at the end of that process, we pay for a third-party inspection. We have an inspector come in and get the property inspected. We send the inspection report to the investors. They get to look through it. They make sure like they're happy with it. We fix anything that comes up, and then we get it appraised, and then go to the closing table. And that's typically a 45 to 60 day process. And so we feel that it's just not just another product that we're giving to the investor. We're helping them, we're educating, we're teaching them, we're getting them through a buying process, a rehab process from day one. And so, we've gotten a lot of really good feedback from that.
I love that. I love that so much, because it is truly designed for the beginner investor and more advanced as well. But I mean, you're literally giving them the entire education process. So they're not just paying for a house that cash flows above the 1% rule. They're literally buying an education, and they understand that they have so many different things that you add. I just wrote down over here that you pay for the third-party inspection, right? Mm-hmm. So that's an additional, I don't know what it is in the market. In ours, it's anywhere from $350 to $500 that they're also saving, it's to get a full inspection report and then come back and say, hey, fix these few different items. That is an amazing model, and I definitely commend you for that.
I think
go ahead. But no, go ahead, because I'm about to go divert or whatever.
I think one of the most awesome things that you put out there was that you take all the risk up front, right? So by doing that, that means you have 100% faith that this is going to work regardless if the buyer backs out or not. So you've done your due diligence. You've pretty much vetted the property yourself. And I think that is key, because what you often hear, some of the bad things about these turnkey places, and I'm sure you could probably confirm that, that's not what's happening. A lot of people are, buying these properties, and they really don't care too much about the buyer. That, I mean, at the end of the day, they really care more about just the money. So they might be giving them a crap project, kind of like what you said happened. I'm not sure if it was to you. I think it was
to
you.
David, my business partner. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, dude. It's super important to us. And what we would hate to happen is we buy this house and we sell this house, and it's just a really bad experience for the end investor. And so it's super important to us to do like a really good rehab. When we buy the house, we go through it, make sure that all the major systems are going to be updated. We don't want any like major capital expenditure to take place afterwards that our investor is going to have to, we don't want like our investor to buy the house and then 6 months later have to put $6,000 into a new roof. So we do that on the front end. Like, we make sure the roof has 10 years, the furnace has 10 years, the water heater has 10 years, all those major systems that can be a major capital expenditure. We take care of that on the front end. So, I mean, we do pretty good sized rehabs. For a $100,000 house, we put $25,000, $30,000 into it. So that's really important to us. The end product and the experience that this investor gets is way more important to us than the bottom line is for us.
Because you're serving our own community, right? And like I
Absolutely.
said, that would give me the most when you said that pretty much gives me the most confidence that your product is like super, super legit, and I'm sure phenomenal. You know what I mean? Just because, hey, we take all the risk up front. We know that we're so confident that this is going to work, that our product is so sound that even we're not even going to make you buy it until it's all automatically done, until it's complete. Right. So I just think that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. We actually, there's one house that we ended up not selling to an investor because we had, like, this guy wanted to buy it. It was under contract, and it's kind of a long story, but we had a renter move in like real soon, like way before the buyer was ready, because he was kind of still working the loan. And so like there's like 30 days where this renter was already in the house, and she ended up like not paying rent the first month. And we were kind of getting close to the closing table, and we started like hounding the tenant. And we went back to our buyer and was like, hey, we see some problems with this tenant. We're going to start the eviction process. We're not going to sell you this house. And so we held on to it, and we lost our buyer. And, we had to evict the tenant while we owned the house. And it was an expense on us that kind of hurt. But what we didn't want to do is turn that over knowing that there was going to be a future issue. And then having the investor have to deal with it. And
that's great. I hear about ghost tenants a lot too. Those month-to-month ghost tenants with turnkey properties every now and again as well. So it's good that you're very, very serious about the complete product of that.
Yeah.
That's integrity. That's what that's called. That's a military core value right there. I try to preach so much to our veterans and our service members that, and I'm sure, as you're aware, I'm sure you've seen in your career that during the transition period, many of them feel like they have no transferable skills, right? It may be a little bit easier for a pilot to say, hey, I can go do commercial piloting, but some of our combat arms MOSs, some of our other MOSs, support MOSs, they don't necessarily, and MOS is military occupation special.
Got it.
Yeah, I know it might be different for you guys, but for those listening, now I want to touch on two things, because that kind of brings up a point. One, how did your military experience play into your role of being an entrepreneur and a business owner? And then two, you've designed this system with the out-of-state real estate investor in mind while they're serving active duty. But I mean, you're not only in the Navy, you're a Navy pilot who deploys often, and your partner is across the country. So how the hell did you find the time to set this up? So it's a two-part question. How'd you find the time? How'd you do it? And what about your military experience has kind of helped you build all this?
Yeah, I think so. Part one, I think the military service member in general is a fantastic entrepreneur because of, in general, our personality. We are take action, go-getters, type A personalities that's just going to go make it happen and learn as you go. And it goes back to that very first statement that I made is you got to take action, right? You can learn, you can self-educate, but until you take action and learn along the way, you're never going to get anywhere. And I think for the most part, most service members are that way. And so, and I think you guys are probably in the same boat. Like you go to a new command and you get assigned a job. You have no idea how to do that job. And you almost kind of like fake it till you make it, and you learn as you go. And that's the same way with any entrepreneur, type business. Like you fake it till you make it. You learn as you go. You try. You force yourself to learn by doing. And so I think a service member already does that in the military. And, and that's just a fantastic transition into entrepreneurship. And so, that in general, I think is great. And then, doing this while still active duty, I'm not going to lie. It's definitely a challenge at times. It's early mornings like this. I'm typically up at 4 a.m. every single morning, and 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. is kind of like my golden time when I'm knocking out, real estate stuff, working on, doing my morning routine and knocking out as much as I possibly can. That's when my kids are still sleeping and it's quiet and I can get a lot of stuff done. And then go ahead.
Keep going. No, I just wanted to ask you, what time is it where you're at right now?
6:15 a.m. Yeah. I'm Mountain Time. I'm in Colorado. So yeah, I've been up since 4. Yeah. And it's that way every single morning for me. And, go to work, do my Navy job. And then, every now and then if I can, get out and go take a phone call or do something when it's not interfering with my Navy work, I will. And then, come home. I got 2 little kids. I got a 5-year-old and 2-year-old. I got a family, doing that as soon as I get home, mama hands me the kid and says, here you go. and I do that until I get them to bed. And then I go right back at it and working at night. So, lots of early mornings, lots of late nights, but, to me, it's all worth it. And building out the business, building out the company, putting those systems in place to be that transition tool out is super important to me.
Love it. Yes.
One thing, guys, this is he's up at 6:15, been up since 4. This is a Saturday. This isn't like a Wednesday. I just want to put that out there. So like there's no excuses in Stuart's mind for any of this, because his why is a lot bigger than his sleep, right? He's talking about his family. He's talking about the service members out there that need a product like this. Yeah, I commend you, man. You gave me goosebumps over here. I got chills. Let's go.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, man.
That's so awesome. I love it. We've talked a couple times about, the time management, right? And the amount of available hours that we have during the day, right? And I love that you are literally, it seems like that's a common trend for most of our successful guests on here, for pretty much all of our successful guests on here. Hey man, we're up at the crack of dawn before we need to go to PT. We're we got families, and then we have to work as soon as the kids go to bed, pretty much until 11, 12 o'clock at night sometimes, and boom, right back up at it again. And all this is for a bigger purpose, man. Like I commend you. I love it. I love hearing it every single time, man. Every single time. I love it. So I got a question, kind of what you talked about. We talked about that switch, right? Every military member, it makes a fantastic entrepreneur, right? And I agree, and I think we preach that pretty often here. What would you say to those? So a lot of times it's hard for some of us to make that switch. We're doing certain roles within the military that lends itself perfectly to the civilian sector, but for some reason that switch, it's hard to make that switch over. What I've noticed is that so some of my junior leaders, right, when I talk about, hey, well, you could do this outside, you can be your own entrepreneur and do this, they're like, there's no way I could do that. It's like, Well, you're already doing that right now, So what would you say to somebody like that that maybe help them turn over that switch and realize that, hey, you can do it the same thing. You can take those transferable skills like Mike was talking about and move that over to whatever you like to do on the entrepreneurial side.
Yeah, I would really encourage them to start changing not changing, but start putting yourself into groups that have that same mindset, right? And that took a while for me too. For a long time, I was trying to just do all this on my own, and really it was just self-motivation for myself. But if you don't have that, if you can kind of put yourself, surround yourself with people that are already doing it, and surround yourself around those that are going to push you more than you would push yourself. Your network is your net worth, right? That's kind of the cliche quote there, but it really is true. Like, you got to start surrounding yourself with people that are doing it. So, if all your buddies are out like boozing every single night and they're not making anything of themselves, like, you gotta, if you want to make anything of yourself, you're going to have to change that first and foremost, the people that you surround yourself. So stop going and hanging out with the crowds that are just partying and wasting all their money, and start putting yourself around people like you guys. Start educating, start going to mastermind groups, start going to meetup groups on the weekends or in the evenings, and start really trying to shift your focus to start putting yourself around those people that are going to help you and make you better.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time. The sum of the 5 people you associate most with, and I don't want to mess it up, but the Jim Rohn quote, everybody knows it, right? And that is so important. And just like Stuart said, it's not necessarily, you don't have to be with that person physically in real time. You can read more books. You can watch the podcast. You can get onto these YouTube channels, but you have to start associating yourself with those go-getters, those action takers. I mean, that honestly was probably the pivotal point for myself as well. And you hit on another thing that you lean on teamwork, man. The military, stresses the value of teamwork time and time again. And that is in every successful story that you ever hear. There is a team backing, whoever's in the limelight or whatever the case may be. So you got to get out there and rub those elbows.
Yeah. And this is just recent for me. I've found a ton of value in mastermind groups, and they're just like this. They're on like a Zoom call. We have a small group that meets every other Tuesday, and they're all, successful military veteran entrepreneurs. And we just kind of talk about what we're going through, ask questions, offer advice. And man, it's been awesome. Like, I've grown so much in this last year of being a part of the mastermind group. And I highly encourage that. These guys are all around the US. And we have other guys in other small groups that are around the world, that are deployed right now. And, but they're meeting, they're taking the time, and they're growing and learning through, the network of people that are going to help and push you and hold you accountable. It's been awesome for me, for sure.
That's one that we haven't heard often, is the masterminds. That's good.
Yeah. And, so there's some super expensive masterminds. And when you get to a certain level, highly encourage it. And there's some other masterminds that are less expensive. And there's some free ones. I would say kind of maybe stay clear from the free ones, because if you don't put any money into it, then you're not going to do anything with it. Like, you have to kind of put your money where your mouth is. And for me, that's been super, super helpful. I've grown a ton just with that alone.
So really quick, the last thing I want to touch on before we start wrapping it up is the Military Investing Conference. Can you please speak to that? Because this is a very, very important, especially for our listeners. It's a very, very important event. And I'm not sure how much, with everything that's recently going on with the COVID-19, if it's what's going on. But either way, at some point, I know it's going to kick back up. But can we talk about that a little bit? Can you speak to that? What is that?
Yeah, man. So this has been something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And one of your other guests that you guys just had on recently, David Perret, something he's wanted to do. And we talk, we're in the mastermind group together that I was talking about. And And then there's another guy who is now a Navy reservist, was active duty, flew helicopters with me out in San Diego. And he's just crushing it in real estate. Got out of the active Navy because he was so successful in his real estate endeavors. So we kind of put our heads together, and Bill Allen is the other, the third party of that. And he has a company called 7 Figure Flipping. And he runs a big event every year called Flip Hacking Live. So he's had that experience of running a big conference. And so he kind of took the bull by the horns, and just like any of us do, just jump at it, get after it, take action, and just do it. And so that's what we did. And Bill kind of run the lead on it with his experience in running big events. So, we put that together. We started, trying to find venues. Bill has an event planner on his team, and started putting that action together. So we got it all put in place, right at kind of the forefront of the coronavirus, craze. It's right now it's scheduled for the 29th and 30th of May in St. Louis, Missouri. We got the Hyatt Regency Hotel at the Arch downtown in St. Louis reserved. We got a big space there. But the Department of Defense put like a no travel ban on, and all this has just kind of been blowing up. And so it's about the worst timing that you could possibly have for trying to put on this conference. And there's, as we all know, like, the NBA is shut down, and, March Madness shut down, like all these like huge events, like no more big events with people. So it is actually, it's forced us to have to kind of rethink, about this event. And, we just had a conference, the other day, and I think we're going to turn it into it hasn't been announced yet. But by the time this podcast comes out, it probably will be announced, is we're going to go and do a virtual summit. And the point of it, the goal of it was, it was a 2-day conference. Primarily focused on military and veterans. Civilians could absolutely come to it. But all of the speakers that we have scheduled are either still active duty, or in a reserve status, or are a veteran, were in the military at some point, and are crushing it within their niche of real estate. And, we were kind of looking at it as like an introduction to real estate investing in all these different niche asset classes, to almost be like a job fair, if you will, for military and for veterans. Like, hey, here's all these different, ways that you can invest in real estate. And so we had, I was going to be talking about Turnkey, and how you can get into the turnkey business, and buy turnkey real estate while you're still active duty, with my business partner, David. And, we had people talking about, apartment investing and syndications and mobile home parks and the BRRRR strategy, private lending, raising money, becoming a realtor. So we have all these different niches, that we had like 20 plus speakers that we're going to kind of talk on all these different niches of real estate. And, 100% just educational, filled with content, just helping people learn. And all the profits from it, we're not going to take any profits from it. All the profits are going to go right back into charity organizations that support veterans. And basically what we're having every speaker do is give us their favorite charity. And, depending on how much money is raised from the event, we're going to split it up between those charities. And there's one charity that a lot of people have been talking about. They're based out of Kansas City, where they basically build houses for veterans, for wounded veterans. And so that's kind of been like a goal of ours, to see how many houses that we can build for veterans, from all the proceeds of this.
Eric Upchurch, I know he's very, very involved with that group, correct?
Yeah, active duty passive income. Yeah, I think they're so Eric's going to talk about house hacking, using your VA. Well, no, he's going to talk about VA loans and house hacking. Okay. And we have a couple other guys that are talking about syndications. And so it's going to be a fantastic event. Like I said, I think we're going to go virtual. We're going to try to do like a virtual summit. I'm not sure if it's still going to be 2 days or if we're going to compress it into 1 day. We're still trying to figure that out. But right now the website is live and open. You can buy your tickets for the physical event. I think we're going to change it soon to make it the virtual event. Still not sure about pricing, whether we're going to change the pricing or keep it the same. But the website, if you guys want to put it in the show notes, is veteranslive.com. Veteranslive.com. And you can go there, check it out. Bill Allen has a little video on it, telling everybody what it's about, and then you can buy tickets there.
Hey, to our listeners, I really want you to understand how important this is, right? So we talk a lot about, we just talked about it, network. Your network is your net worth. This is a key event. I think the way me and Mike met up was through a networking conference, was through a big conference. The way that I've met most of my partners and people that I do business with are through some type of networking conference. Man, like, these things are so important to involve yourself with. Now, the reason why this one is obviously so special is because you're getting with a group of military investors, people that understand what you're going through, right? They understand our unique situation. So strongly recommend considering this. I've already told all my soldiers about it. So you'll probably see a couple of tickets from the Fort Drum area. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So yeah, I just think it's extremely important, especially we're building wealth as a community. I love that all the other groups are involved. I mean, we shout out Active Duty Passive Income, shout out From Military to Millionaire. I mean, yeah, we pretty much all know each other. I love building this community and seeing other military veterans who, sometimes we're not thinking of our transition or thinking of the possibility that we can do other things outside of the military. I love seeing just grow and build wealth and create cash flow. It's a phenomenal thing, and it's very, very passionate about it. Really.
Yeah, thanks, man. Awesome. Another, like, I guess, sales pitch, if you will, is that the conference, there are no sales pitches. Like, there's not going to be any, hey, run to the back of the room and go get this 10 CD course now for half price. Like, there's going to be none of that. We're not allowing it. And so it really is just 100% content, like filling your brain with solid information, education. If it was going to be live, like in person, it is, like you said, like fantastic opportunity to network and meet people and grow that way. And I agree 100%. Like, I go to these conferences and I get more or just as much out of the networking aspect of it than I do, the educational piece. So, unfortunately, coronavirus kind of got in the way of this one, the networking piece, but like next year it's going to be live. It's going to be amazing. We're going to do it virtually this year. Still going to be, some fantastic ways to network. You're going to get all this contact information from everyone. If you find someone that you like really kind of connect with, like, ooh, I want to go syndicate apartments, I'm going to talk to this guy. Fantastic way to kind of get in with that network. And so, yeah, thanks for the plug. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be a fantastic event.
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right. So just wrapping it up really quick. You had one piece of advice that you can give to a service member that's possibly starting off investing. What would that one piece of advice be? I think I know your answer because you touched on it a couple of times, but let's see. What would that be?
Well, yeah. So I think first piece of advice is just get educated, right? Start listening to podcasts, start reading books, start getting into those, all the websites that have all the information. So first educate yourself, and then second, take action.
Nice. Straight to the point, guys. You got to constantly be learning. Leaders are readers.
Right.
All right. So you dropped all this beautiful knowledge. You talked about your turnkey company. I know everybody wants to talk to you. How do they get in touch with you right now?
Yeah. So our website for the turnkey company is storehouse310turnkey.com. Storehouse310turnkey.com. Our company is Storehouse 310 Ventures. They can go to the website. They can click on the contact us page. There's all the social media links up there at the top of the website. We have a Facebook page. You can search for Storehouse 310. We have a Instagram page. We don't have a Twitter page. I don't tweet. And then I have a LinkedIn page myself. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm fairly active on LinkedIn as well. So happy to help out in any way I can. I love serving our military community.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming out. Guys, we covered everything today. We talked about how you can start out-of-state real estate investing while still active duty in the military. We covered turnkey companies. We covered doubling your profit on land randomly. We talked about how you grow a partnership across the country. And then after doing all of that, how you give back to the community through an event catered towards veterans that gives towards veteran charities. I mean, we covered a lot, guys. So this is great content. We greatly appreciate it. For everybody listening, all right, we're wrapping it up now. But if you find value in this, please like, share, leave a review, comment below. Let's give some shout outs to Stuart for coming out here. And as we progress, if there's anything else that you guys want to talk about, put it in the comments. Put it in the comments. If you're listening on podcast, give us a 5-star review. I know that's 10, but you know where I'm getting at. Give me 5 stars. And with that, Dan, do you got anything else?
No, just come join our Facebook group, man. We have a big community there. I believe Stuart's on the group as well. So
yep.
Right now we got a little over 300 military investors on there. So we're all sharing knowledge, helping each other out, helping each other grow. So if you want to be involved in the group, it's free. It's free information. We put a lot of content on there and some extra little free products. So strongly recommend you come and join the group. We really love to have you there. And with that, this is Dan Wynn
and Mike Glaspie
signing off.